Welcome to this edition of DIY3DTech.com. In this episode, we're going to look at finishing off some 3D printed parts. So I've created these couple clocks, and one of the things I want to do is I really like the idea, I like the shapes, but aesthetically, well, they leave a lot to be desired. I mean, yeah, they're okay for 3D printed parts, but, you know, is the wife going to let me put one of these in the living room? Well, the answer is no. So what I did is I thought about how can I really finish these so they look more like a decorative piece than something that came off on a 3D printer. And one of the things that hit me is I went through this phase of refinishing furniture or what have you. And one of the things I came across was this stuff here, Stone Creations. Now, this is from American Accents, but this actually, I think a number of companies make it. And what it is sort of a rough paint that provides a kind of like a external finish. So what I do, and I still actually do it a little bit, is certain wood projects I'll create, you know, utilizing probably subpar grade wood, and then I'll actually paint it with this, and then what happens is it looks kind of artistic. So I got thinking to myself, what the heck? Why not finish a 3D part like this? How will it work? So that's what this video is all about. So we're going to take a look at that. But one of the things, as with anything paint, there's sort of a preparatory process. So what I also have is some quick set epoxy, some 5-minute epoxy. I've got pretty short patience. So because one of the pieces, and it's probably a bit noticeable in here, is I have some voids in the way that the plastic went down. And so what's going to happen is, even though this is still pretty rough and we'll fill in some voids, what's going to happen is you're still going to see some of these voids. So what I'm going to suggest doing, and I'm going to do it off camera here a little bit. I'm not going to bore you with me mixing up epoxy and everything, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some of this 5-minute epoxy, mix it up, and utilize it to fill some of these voids. And then after the voids are filled, what we're going to do is we're going to go out in the garage and apply this paint. And so we'll take a look at that. So anyways, I'm going to go do the epoxy piece, and then I tell you what, I'll meet you out in the garage and we'll actually spray these and see how that goes. And then we'll come back here to the bench and take a look at how they turn out. So let's head out to the garage. Okay, so we're out in the garage. A little bit of apologies for the lighting out here, not the best. But what I want to do is set this stuff up for painting. And one of the things I like to use are pyramids. So you can get painters' pyramids, or you can print these on a 3D printer. I printed these on my 3D printer. And then the idea is I want to use these to kind of lift the object, keep it off the cardboard box now. I've got it on the cardboard box, and so as you see, I just set these on here. Now, what I usually like to do is I usually like to paint the back side first before going to the front side, because then when I finish up, if anything happens or any marring happens, it'll happen to the back side rather than the front side. So I always start with the back side, and so I kind of place that on there. And then what I want to do is I also want to do the clock too, and I got to remember where I put the clock. Now that I found the clock and I've also got it set up, what you have to do is really shake this stuff. It needs to be really shook well. And then you start applying it, and you see how it starts going on, kind of, and it will take several coats to cover, because it goes on three-dimensionally, if you will. And I'm trying to make sure I back the camera up. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to back the camera up a little bit more. Sound on this might not be so good, because I want to keep the camera far enough away that I'm not getting overspray, obviously, on the camera lens. I don't want to ruin a several $100 camera in doing this. So now, one of the things, if you notice, and it's probably a little tough with the light in here, is the vertical surfaces don't take this stuff as well as the horizontal surfaces. So this is where it will take you several coats typically to cover this. because what I'm going to do now is let the first coat of this dry and come through and put on a second coat on the bottom once this dries. I'm going to probably, it's a little bit cool and rainy out today, so I'm going to leave this sit for about 20-30 minutes and then come back and apply the second coat. Okay, now that I've put 2 coats on the back side of these, I've flipped them over, set them on the pyramids or painter spikes, whatever you want to call them. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my first coat on the top cover, or the top of this. Now, one of the things you notice that the clear covers a lot better than the yellow. The yellow is really showing through. If you intend on doing this, one of the things I would highly suggest is utilizing more of a neutral colored plastic rather than something like a yellow, because it will be hard to cover.
And we'll take multiple coats.
Okay, so we have another couple coats on this, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to let this dry and sit up, and then probably the next time you see these will be back at the bench. Okay, welcome back. So this is dried up overnight, dried up nicely. Now, the other clock is still drying. I had to put a few more coats on it than I did this one. And this kind of goes back to a little bit earlier. I had mentioned if you're going to do this, I highly recommend a darker color, either black or clear as this one was, or natural, because it covers better, because the yellow kept pulling and showing through, where this covered very nicely in fewer coats. So it came out really nice. As you see, I've got the clock motor installed. It really came out sharp and sits up nicely. I'll put some overlay pictures here so you can see it as I kind of talk about it. But anyways, now this comes off really nice. So, you know, we took a 3D printed object and we really made it look like something that came and is commercially acceptable. So I'm very happy with this. This texturing also, I think, you know, can work in a lot of different cases where you have, you know, different type of objects and you want to make it look more stone-like or something like that. But there's a lot of unique finishes like this out there. There's also, I've used sort of like a battered metal finish out there, which really comes off nice. Now, one of the things, because of the way that this sort of encapsulates it, and I could have probably did it with this one too, I think in full disclosure, is because of the plastic, it'd probably be better to prime it. And probably with the yellow one, the yellow clock, it would have worked better if I would have primed it too, thinking back about it. Because one of the things that, especially on the flatter surfaces of the print, it wants to pull away because it has a hard time sticking to it. So I put about 3 coats on this one, real light coats. As you've seen, I took short bursts, and then, you know, after each coat, you know, I let it dry for about an hour, then I'd put on the next coat, then the next coat. So it's about 3 hours to totally coat this, and then I let it sit overnight, and then what happens is it hardens up, so it creates a hard shell around this, and it comes out really nice. So I'm really happy with the way that this turned out. Now, I put the stock hands on there for right now. I'm not overly excited about the stock hands. They're okay. What I am going to do, though, is come up and 3D print my own hands for this. That's kind of more unique-y, rockety like. So we'll see how that goes. And then I'll probably also paint those up. Those I probably will use more of the hammered metal look on it. So anyways, hopefully it's giving you some ideas to kind of take your 3D prints to the next level. You'll probably see me do a few more of these, because one of the things that I want to do is kind of start working up to, possibly opening an Etsy shop for some of this stuff, etc. And again, I'm sort of experimenting with what comes out looking nice and everything. And so want to share that with you guys. So hopefully you found this of value. So give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe. A lot more of this stuff coming. And hey, we'll see you in the next video. Cheers.
Please click like below and subscribe to the channel to keep up to date on all of our projects.